All right. Hello, everyone. I apologize to those of you who may have been um, waiting for this. It's a Friday. It's been a long week, some travel involved. And, for a science stream like this one that I'm going to do right now, there's a certain amount of preparation. And technically, this is my lunch break. So I was doing things for my 9 to 5 before this. So, in a nutshell, that culminated in me starting this stream late. I'm going to make an announcement over on my original Big Discussions 76 channel, in case, not unless, in case someone wants to come over or folks from over there want to come over and partake in this science discussion over here. I want to thank first Telling Truth Jury Nullification. She left this comment before the stream even started. So thank you for coming in here and commenting. Snuggles, I see you've popped in. I know some other content creators are going right now, probably with more entertaining content than what I'm going to present here today. This is going to be a science-enriched discussion, but also it's going to relate back to the current events. I'm not going to get into the politics or the religion of what's happening now, but this is also a science story. So I'm going to gently talk about the science of this. Snuggle says, I would like you to do more collaborations with more YouTubers so you can get your name known out there. You have too much information that needs to be known and you need more eyes on you. Snuggles, I appreciate that. I very much appreciate that. I do have interviews lined up. I have a spreadsheet full of people I want to interview, other STEM professionals, other scientists that I want to interview, but I need to do a better job of connecting with the other science YouTubers, those of my hue and those of Asian descent, those of Arabic descent, those of European descent. And so I think that would involve going, quote, a little more mainstream, which is, as a Black science content creator, hoping to transition into becoming a Black science influencer, that will require going more mainstream and getting out there more. But what would help certainly is you all sharing this. This is going to be benign. T Riddler says, "Come on, Doc. Everybody loves controversy." Well, T Riddler, I will say this: no, not everybody loves controversy, and this is a controversial topic. But the more and more I'm YouTubing and the more and more I'm on social media, I'm realizing that you have to be careful of your likeness. And you have to be careful and mindful of what you're saying on camera at times. I think I'll just leave that there. You just got to be careful today. So, especially when you're talking about the politics and the religion, the politics and the spirituality of something like this, and whether it's right or wrong, you've got to be careful in today's climate. I'm going to make the announcement over on my original channel, and then I'm going to play the intro, and then we'll jump in. I have a lot to say. I have a lot of material to share, a lot of science to share about this. And then there's a really intriguing article that I saw on yahoo.com, which was the genesis for this discussion. And I think it's something that people aren't talking about right now. So let me make this announcement on my original channel, and then I will jump in. Let's see. So I'm there. Yep, we are live. Everybody loves controversy. You just got to be careful, T Riddler, today, man. I mean, especially, not just for yourself, but also for those, your loved ones around you, the things you say and the things you do on social media and in these public platforms can affect not just you, but those around you. Okay, so, and they can affect your future aspirations, whatever those may be. All right. Now let me go back to my channel. Yeah, and T Riddler, when again, you just got to be careful what gets out, who's taping you when, and when people are watching things on the playback, and you're in a casual setting, um, the context in which you're saying what you're saying can be it might not be well understood, and it can be turned around, and it could be just you got to be careful. Anyway, I'm going to play the intro, and I'll see you guys on the other side of the intro. Then we'll dive in. I want to get off within an hour because I have more things to do today, and it's a holiday weekend. So I'll see you guys on the other side of my science intro, which at this point I do need to update. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar, and this is Big Discussions 76, Science and Technology. First of all, please like this stream. Please share it, and please subscribe if you haven't. I still haven't figured out YouTube. My subscriber count went up just above 1,200, and then either YouTube unsubbed some people, or some people said, you know what, I don't like this science content, or maybe the way he's presenting it, and then it went down by 2. So I just don't get it. Anyway, if you're new, and or if the algorithm brought you here, please subscribe if you see fit. Well, guys, normally I would a lot of times I'd be doing a sports lunchtime stream on a Friday, and I wanted to do this one last night, but I was just too tired. I went to happy hour after work, and I got back late, and I had some other things to do. So I said, I'll just do it around lunchtime. My energy will be up, and I'll have time to properly set the stream up. Really quickly before I jump in, please consider joining the Big Words LLC Newsletter. This link is below in the description box. I have to get the newsletter for June together. It won't be as long. There's a 2-paragraph greeting, and then there is a subscription button at the bottom. You just enter your email address there. I want to thank everyone who has signed up already. And I think I will stop this there. I'm a YouTube content creator and a writer. I'm working on a book, and that will capture all of that for those of you who are interested. I've got to slow down. All right. And also, lastly, I don't have a super chat over here yet. But if you want to make a donation to the channel, my Cash App and PayPal are here. Okay. So, guys, you guys know what happened with the Supreme Court regarding Roe versus Wade, and with the exception of one little thing, I've made the effort to stay silent on that because it's so nuclear and radioactive and polarizing. But I realized an article popped up in my feed from Yahoo, and then I remembered that this is also a science story. This is a science story as well, in addition to a political story and a story on faith and spirituality. There's a science story within this. So I'm going to start with, in my lifetime, how I really started thinking about this whole thing. Coming from the east side of Buffalo in the 90s, that was post the explosion of HIV/AIDS. That was, I think, the explosion of teen pregnancy. There was I just remember in my generation during that time, strap up, protect yourself. There were notable scenes from John Singleton's Boys in the Hood. Get your education. Don't become a parent before you get your education. And there were a lot of peers who, I don't want to say fell into that trap, but just embarked on that part of their journey early. So there was a lot going on there. And I remember at that young age thinking about abortion. And I remember just thinking, okay, well, if I impregnate someone, we can just get an abortion and that's it. And that's was kind of my mindset for a number of years. And then once I got to the University of Michigan, well, they say higher education expands your mind, and you start thinking of things in ways that you hadn't thought of them before, and you start to meet people from other backgrounds different than yours. And there at the Department of Pharmacology, that's the University of Michigan medical campus, we learned a lot about science there. I did my research. There were patients being treated, surgeries being done, experiments being run, but particularly in the sciences, there were so many people there from different backgrounds, different walks of life from around the world, different states in the nation. And I remember I had a conversation with, I don't think he'll mind me shouting him out, Dr. Patrick Murphy. Murphy, I guess that would mean Patrick is of Irish descent. And I was getting ready to TA a class, a nursing pharmacology class. And Patrick gave me his notes, and somehow we started talking about RU 486. Okay. Does anyone out there know, for those of you, for my live viewers there, does anyone know what RU 486 is? I'm going to come back to this later on in this stream. That's the chemical structure for RU 486. It's a drug. Does anyone know what that is and what it does? I'm going to wait for a second. No takers. Okay. No takers. Let me look on the YouTube side. The comments come in on the YouTube side first, and then they transmit to StreamYard. T. Riddler, that's correct. It is, I believe, it is at least the first iteration of the morning after pill. Okay. So, in theory, if there's an interaction and the woman suspects something might have happened, I think she takes this the morning after, or she could take this up to several days afterwards. I'm not going to tell you about how it works. We're going to get into that. But me and Patrick, Dr. Murphy, we started talking about the morning after pill. But more importantly, we started talking about when, and this is at the center of this whole thing, when does life start? I never thought about that back on the east side of Buffalo when I was like, yeah, if this happens, we can just get an abortion. But this is the first time I started to think and ponder when life actually starts. You guys can let me know right there in the chat when you think life actually starts, because this is one of the arguments at the center of this whole thing. Is it when sperm joins egg? Is it when egg attaches to the cervix? I believe it's the cervix or the endometrium or the uterus. Is that when life starts? Is it when the sperm joins with the egg, or is it when the fetus attaches to the uterus? People can't agree on that. And that's something that everyone will probably argue up until the end, just like gun control. But it was my first time thinking of that. So let me know what you guys think in the chat right there. When does life actually start for a human being? Okay, so a very quick let's just do a very, very quick run through of the science and the biology behind reproduction on the female side. I have a bunch of pictures here queued up. I'm just going to go through these randomly, and they set up the article that I want to read at the end of this stream. Okay. Again, guys, let me know right there in the chat what you think about when life actually begins, because it's just something that it's at the heart of this argument. And Toya, there you go. So there's three. So is it when sperm joins egg? Is it when the fetus attaches to the uterus? Or is it when the baby actually comes out into the world? So thank you, Toya. There are actually three interpretations of that now. Or is it when consciousness enters the mind of the baby? I posted it on my community tab. Dr. John Campbell, I was watching it last night. Dr. John Campbell, he's created a lot of quality content on the pandemic, but he created a video about the different stages of fetal development from joining of sperm to egg to when the baby actually starts to develop fingers and when it starts moving. I left that on my community tab in case you want to take a look at it, but it's also beneath this video. It's very good. But thank you, Toya, for that. Okay, so, and I'm going to run through all of this very, very briefly. Let's see. So I've got content in my library about the infant formula shortage. If you haven't taken a look at those are voiceovers. Please go ahead and take a look. Yeah, there's formula. But the question is, how does we have this formula shortage, but how do babies get here? I mean, all of you guys know how babies get here. But it starts with the joining of sperm to egg. The sperm comes from the man. The egg comes from the woman. And that is a nuclear topic as well. Is the man the source of life, or is the woman the source of life, or is it the joining of the two? Okay, that's just a controversial topic as well. Okay, scientifically, what we know is that there is mitosis and there's meiosis. For those of you who don't remember, back to your biology 101. And what happens is basically the male and the female each generate what we call gametes. And you know that the majority of the cells in your body have 46 chromosomes. Well, when sperm and egg are generated, each of those sperm and egg cells only have 23 chromosomes. And that's depicted here by this cartoon. The initial cells have 4 chromosomes, and then the gametes, the sperm and the eggs, only have 2. So once that sperm and that egg, they join together, now you have 46 again. Okay. Where to now? Okay. We know that the embryo goes through development. Once the sperm and that egg join together, you start with 1 cell, then you get 2 cells, 4 cells, 8, 16, and then you form a blastocyst. And then as the weeks go on, you have multiple stages of development, and that baby starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger in the womb of the mother. At this point, I'm going to introduce the concept of endocrinology. For those of you who don't know what endocrinology is, that's the study of the endocrine system. And basically what happens is a hormone is generated in one cell of the body. And then typically that hormone gets dropped into the bloodstream and it travels to another organ system of the body. It affects that system usually by cell division or growth in some way. But basically, the hormones being created in one tissue in the body, it's going in the bloodstream, or it's going somewhere and it's traveling and it's affecting another population of cells in the body. And I'm going to talk about why that's important and why I'm introducing this. Discipline equals freedom says there's a lot of ways to look at it. When cells start to divide, the heartbeat starts. It's been said that during an abortion, the fetus instinctively moves away from the doctor's instruments. You know what? And if you watch Dr. John Campbell's video, it's on my community tab and it's also below in the description box. He actually says that as well. And that's that the baby in the womb, it can start to sense sounds. And also it can start to be reactive to touch. And as you just described there, instruments, the doctor's instruments. Everyone keep commenting there. If you have reaction to what I'm asking or saying, please continue to comment and add to this. Okay, so endocrinology. So let's take a quick look at the woman's menstrual cycle. All of us, we're mature here, so we know that beyond a certain age, both men and women our sex specific hormones start to kick in. As men, ours is for the most part driven by testosterone. The women's is impacted by progesterone and estrogen, and actually others, luteinizing hormone. But what I want to focus on here is the menstrual cycle. Okay, and even this, I mean, how many for the men out there? How many of you have gotten in trouble for making jokes about this? Well, this is a real thing. At a certain age, women, depending upon what you say today, females or women, you can get yourself in trouble. But young women, they start undergoing their menstrual cycle. And for the sake of this discussion, that might be hard to see, but you see the estrogen there is in that dotted purple line. There's a spike at the end of the follicular phase. That's when the egg gets released. And then that dashed line with the dots in between, the two dots, that's progesterone. You see that during the luteal phase, that rises to a peak and then it goes back down. Okay. And then, so this is over a month. So I'm running through this. That estrogen goes up. The egg pops out of the follicle, starts to make its way down the fallopian tubes. I thought I had that picture queued up for you guys. But you can see that the egg starts to migrate down the fallopian tube there. And then what that progesterone does, and I'm going to spend a lot of time on this, is that it causes the uterus to grow and expand, and it causes blood to rush in there, and it causes the tissue to increase, and that's depicted here at the bottom. You see, as that progesterone goes up, the endometrium starts to thicken with blood vessels and tissue. And the reason that happens is because if that egg gets fertilized, it's going to need some place. Well, in theory, if it's going to go through to birth, it needs a place to attach, and it's going to need to feed. Okay. There's a new comment here. This is from Toya. She says, there it is. Toya, I'm not sure what you're referring to there. So the baby needs to feed. And that's what happens during birth. You join sperm to egg, it starts to divide, and then that embryo, it travels through the fallopian tube, and then it finds a place to attach in the cervix, on the endometrium, and then it starts to create its own blood flow where it can exchange materials with the mother, and then it forms the placenta. But let's go back to progesterone. And thank you for those of you who are hanging out for this. Let's go back to progesterone, because progesterone is a key hormone in this whole thing. So if you look here on this diagram, you see that progesterone is generated in the corpus luteum. And then once the fetus, the embryo, attaches to the endometrium, the progesterone is created there. So whereas I showed you this, I know I'm jumping around, please be patient. Whereas I showed you this, you see that the progesterone for a non-pregnant woman, it goes up and it goes down. What's fascinating is that once the fetus attaches to the endometrium, you can see over a course of months, you see the first trimester, the second trimester, the third trimester, you see that progesterone, it goes way up, and it keeps going up, up, and up, and up, and up to parturition. And then once the baby's born, it falls all the way back down. And as I was thinking, you see postpartum there. All of you have heard the term postpartum depression. That as a scientist, I was thinking that must have something to do with the hormone levels going way back in reverse. So the progesterone levels have to go up to bring a baby to term, and they have to stay up to bring that baby to term. And again, that all involves creating a suitable environment, a comfortable environment, a nurturing environment for that baby to grow and develop. And as I was thinking about this last night, I was thinking that it's kind of like some of you may have seen pictures of a ship on a dock being built. It's on land first, and they're slowly putting it together. And then once the ship is ready to go into the water, they slide it down into the water. Well, a baby being produced is the same way. It's being gradually built, and then at 9 months it goes out into the world. Let me decline that call. Aria says, the corpus luteum. Aria, I think I've seen you over on Art New Styles channel. Okay. So, progesterone is a key hormone in this entire process. So I think at this point, I've gone through all my pictures. I'm looking at my library here. Yeah. So what's the significance of RU486 or the morning after pill? Well, let's go a little bit deeper here. We know that our body is made up of billions of cells and of different cell types. And we know that there are signaling pathways in each of those cells. There are receptors on the outside of each of those cells. And there are receptors in the cytoplasm or the cytosol of each of those cells. And the receptor on the inside or in the cytosol of those cells, those are actually called nuclear hormone receptors. And what those receptors do, where's my progesterone receptor cartoon? All right, everyone, give me a second. Go ahead, keep commenting in the chat. If you're new coming in, please hit the like button. If you want to make a donation, my information is there as well. Hold on. Give me 1 second here. Please continue to comment and leave any thoughts or questions in the chat. Oh, I know where it is. There it is. And actually, it's already loaded up. Duh. So this is a cartoon of the estrogen and the progesterone receptor. You see those are hanging out in the cytosol. Estrogen and progesterone, those are lipid soluble. Those are cholesterol derivatives. So there's a purpose for cholesterol besides clogging up our arteries. So those two hormones can go right through the cell wall, and they can bind those receptors. And what those receptors do is once they're bound, they go right into the nucleus, and there they bind DNA, causing transcription, which means that once those receptors bind the DNA, they cause the DNA to unfold and to start producing other proteins, enzymes, and necessary things. In this instance, enzymes that lead to the thickening of the endometrium. So progesterone is critical for the proliferation and maintenance of that endometrium, so the fetus can have a nice, comfortable, nurturing environment to grow and develop over the 9 months. So let's go back to RU486 here. So this is progesterone. That's what the female body, the female sex organs, the corpus luteum, and the placenta, they naturally generate this. This is RU486. There's the pill right there. This is the structure for RU486. Okay. And I'm going to ask you guys just really, really quickly. I'm going to turn you all into junior pharmacologists. What do you notice about this structure for progesterone and this structure here for RU486? Just really quickly, what do you notice about those two structures? I'll wait. I should have put them on the same slide, but I just put them on different slides. What do you notice? This is something that pharmacologists and toxicologists, something that we're always thinking about. Do you guys notice anything about this structure versus this structure? Let me look on YouTube, see if anyone's gotten to it. No one's gotten to it. All right. The structures are similar. Okay. So you see, you have this chain, this 1, 2, 3, 4 ring structure. The RU486 has a similar structure, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it has other parts as well. But what it is it's an inhibitor, it's an antagonist for that progesterone receptor. So it fits in there. It's an antagonist. So for those of you who don't know anything about receptor biology, you have your ligand. In this instance, it's the progesterone. And the RU486, the contraceptive, is an antagonist. So they're both competing for that estrogen receptor. So when that RU486 goes onto that estrogen receptor, that progesterone receptor, the progesterone can't bind. So if that progesterone can't bind that receptor, the endometrium is not going to grow and proliferate. And the fetus won't have anywhere to bind, and it's just going to wash out into oblivion. So that's how that works. And that was one of my first times learning about this type of thing. The comments here in the chat. Yeah, Aria said they are similar in structure. Yep. One has an extra little thingy on the top, several thingies. Discipline says has carbon, and the other doesn't. T Riddler says he's laughing. She says it is like the other, but with a hat. There you go. Aria, you are now a pharmacologist. Structure and function. Okay, so I'm at 40 minutes now. That's the intro. That's a little discussion about contraceptives and how those work. There are other methods of doing that, but that was one of my first discussions and one of my first learning moments on contraceptives and how they work. And it was happening just before I was getting set to TA a nursing pharmacology class. If any of you are interested in reading about how the fetus actually attaches to the endometrium, I was going to read this, but there's no time. This article is below in the description box. It's a little bit older. I'm sure they could tell you a lot more now about how this process works. But to make a long story short, in this paper, they make the argument that there are sugars on the outside of the embryo, and I think there might be sugars on the endometrium, and it travels down the fallopian tube and it rolls, boom, and it attaches to the endometrium. And I believe they describe it as a leptin. I'm not going to read this. This is below in the description box in case you want to read it. There are also articles below regarding RU486, how it works, what it does. I'm not going to read those right now. Instead, I'm going to move now to the Yahoo article because, as I said before, this is it's a political discussion. It is, for some people, it's a faith and personal beliefs discussion. It's a healthcare discussion, but also it's a science discussion. So why would a pharmacologist be concerned about this? Okay, well, let's go to the Yahoo article. This is from the New York Times, and it says, when abortion pills were banned in Brazil, women turned to drug traffickers. Okay, so if I recall correctly, the decision was to send this to the States. So I think what this means, and we're going to read this article together. I didn't have time to read it ahead of time, but I'm assuming with the procedure being banned in certain states, I think access to medication that would help this procedure will be banned in certain states as well. And it looks like from the title, in Brazil, they banned it, and a black market seems to have emerged afterwards. So let's go through this article and see what this has to say about this. I'm going to hydrate. I'm going to read this article and then I'm going to wrap up. Once again, if anyone wants to make a donation to the channel, my information is here. So let's go. Let's read about what happened in Brazil. Okay. So Rio de Janeiro. Last November, Zayana, a 23-year-old college student in northern Brazil, began exchanging text messages with a drug dealer in the south of the country. Following the dealer's instructions, she transferred 1,500 reais. I'm unfamiliar with Brazilian currency, so I don't know how to pronounce that. If any of you know how to pronounce that, tell me right there in the chat. So that's equivalent to 285 American dollars. Her living expenses for several months. Then she waited 3 agonizing weeks for the arrival in the mail of a blister pack of 8 unmarked white pills. When she took them, they had the effect she was hoping for. She underwent a medication abortion at home with her boyfriend, ending an 8-week pregnancy. But Diana kept bleeding for weeks, an unusual but not rare complication. It was like a murder scene every time I had a shower, she said. She was afraid to get help because it is illegal for a woman in Brazil to use the drug mifepristone to trigger an abortion. If she went to a clinic, she feared the staff might figure out she had induced the abortion and report her. The penalty for having an abortion in Brazil is up to 3 years in jail. It's the loneliest feeling I've ever felt in my life, she said, asking to be identified only by her first name out of fear of prosecution. So everyone, that's the other thing. For these pills, for these drugs, contraceptives, the morning after pill, all these pills, there are potential side effects for the women taking those pills. After 7 weeks, she went to a woman's clinic and admitted to having terminated a pregnancy. She was given a simple cauterization. Wow. And no one reported her. Proponents of abortion rights in the United States have suggested that a post-Roe America would differ in a key way from the era before abortion was legalized nationally. Women seeking abortions today have the option of a medical termination using hormone pills to trigger the body to expel the fetus in private, a practice approved by the Food and Drug Administration. Okay, two things. Guys, I've heard that if a woman has too many abortions, she won't ultimately be able to carry a baby to term. And based upon what my brief research on the things I share with you all, I think, yeah, if the uterus becomes too scarred, I could see where it would be impossible for her body to be able to nurture a fetus through to birth. The other thing is, if you want to read some more about pharmacology, I wrote this piece here, and it's there in the description box as well, because this is in large part a pharmacology story. But the wave of state trigger laws that have begun to take effect after the Supreme Court's ruling overturning Roe on Friday bar all abortion, including medication abortions. To get the pills legally, women will have to travel to other states where it is allowed for a medical consultation, even if it is by video or phone as required by the FDA. The trajectory of access to abortion pills in Brazil may offer insight into how medication abortion can become out of reach and what can happen if it does. While surgical abortion was the original target of Brazil's abortion ban, the proscription expanded after medication abortion became more common, leading to the situation today where drug traffickers control most access to the pills. Women who procure them have no guarantee of the safety or authenticity of what they are taking, and if they have complications, they fear seeking help. So, as I said, the creation of a bit of a black market where the medications now have to be purchased underground. Please comment in the chat if you have reaction to anything. Let me mute my computer. My other computer. Today, black market, which means it's being sold underground. Today, black market misoprostol brought in from India, Mexico, and Argentina is sold for anywhere from about $200 to $400 for the 8 tablets recommended for an abortion, compared with less than $15 for a 60-pill bottle in the United States. It took a New York Times reporter less than 1 minute of asking to find someone willing to sell 8 pills for $300 in a Rio neighborhood known for the sale of black market goods. You buy it from a dealer, you don't know what it is. The whole process is made frightening. It's secret. It's not a medicine anymore, said Mara Marquez, who is the director of campaigns for an abortion access advocacy organization called Miles Pelas Vidas de Mujeres. This is supposed to be the straightforward, less complicated way to have an abortion, but now instead, it's buying contraband. It has been illegal in Brazil to have an abortion since 1890. Wow. Although exceptions were added in 1940 for women who were pregnant as a result of I'm not going to say that word because I hear the algorithm is looking for it, or incest, and in cases where a woman's life was endangered by the pregnancy. More recently, access was added for women carrying a fetus with ancephaly, which is missing parts of its brain. But starting in the late 1980s, word spread that an ulcer medication called Cytotec could bring on a period. In fact, it was a Brazilian women's experience with off label use of the drug that led to research and eventual global adoption of medical abortion as a lower cost, less invasive way to end pregnancies that could increase access, especially in developing countries. Cytotec is misoprostol, one half of the World Health Organization's recommended combination hormones. The other is mifepristone to carry out a medication abortion. Mifepristone. Mifepristone has never been approved for use in Brazil, and women unaware of the drug do not seek it on the black market. Misoprostol is usually enough to induce a safe abortion. A study published in The Lancet found that 8% of women who use misoprostol to terminate a pregnancy experienced complications, including bleeding and abdominal pain requiring medical attention. YouTube, this is for educational purposes only. This is not rendering medical advice. The drug was sold in pharmacies without a prescription until 1991, and then it was regulated to require prescription, although the prescription rules were lax. The availability of the pills sharply reduced the number of women turning up in hospitals with the life-threatening infections or hemorrhages from abortions they had tried to induce with the castor root or bleach or coat hangers, said Dr. Anna Teresa Derrick, an obstetrician gynecologist in Rio. It was a big relief for those of us who didn't think women should be punished like this. But misoprostol was becoming a focus of attention for anti-abortion campaigners in Brazil and beyond. In 1998, Brazil's health regulatory agency, Anvisa, included misoprostol on a list of controlled drugs alongside opiates, which meant a prison sentence of up to 15 years for anyone caught importing or buying it. International pharmaceutical companies that made misoprostol were hit with boycotts and stopped producing it. A small domestic company took over manufacturing a generic version of the drug to sell only to the Ministry of Health for hospital use. In 2006, the law prohibiting misoprostol distribution was strengthened to ban selling or publishing information about the drug on the internet. When Jair Bolsonaro was elected Brazil's president in 2018, with enthusiastic support of Brazil's fast-growing evangelical Christian community, access became even more scarce. International reproductive rights organizations such as Women on Web used to mail abortion pills to Brazil, and local feminist groups used to source them and supply them along with instructions for safe use, said Juliana Reis, director of Millhouse. Now, they have almost entirely stopped. Because of the political climate, it's much more difficult to get safe products and to get proper counseling, because the networks that used to do that are much more afraid, said Sonia Correa, a researcher of reproductive health technologies in Rio. New guidelines by the Ministry of Health this month include the assertion that inducing abortion by telemedicine using drugs from the special control list can cause irreversible damage to the woman. Dr. Helena Pero, a gynecologist in the city of Salandia, who introduced telemedicine consultations for legal abortion patients, during the COVID pandemic called the guideline completely ideological and contrary to the scientific evidence. The WHO considers the practice safe. In response to questions from the Times, the ministry said the guidelines reflect that misoprostol is authorized only in hospital establishments, that its use outside this environment is not allowed by law, and that misoprostol for abortion by telemedicine meant women would not have timely access to health services that can manage the possible clinical and surgical complications resulting from this procedure. Okay. Hey, Sheep, I'm going to read two of Ronan's comments. He says, it is not uncommon for mifepristone to not only completely expel it is not uncommon for mifepristone to not completely expel the fetus, and then a DNC procedure is usually required that both can lead to profuse bleeding and can ultimately result in a hysterectomy. He says, it is often taken in a two-dose procedure, usually once in the clinical environment in which the patient can't be observed, and then at home. And Sheed has entered the building. Thank you for being here, Sheed, as always. This is a longer article. I'm going to hydrate one more time, and then I'm going to wrap this up. I don't always like to read long articles, but this is an important one. As you can see, there are so many layers rolled into this. This isn't just one thing. There's politics, there's faith, there's health, there's science. There's so many things rolled into this. And once again, YouTube, this is strictly for educational and teaching purposes. This is not rendering healthcare advice in any way. Derek said she has seen an intensification of scrutiny for the use of misoprostol in the hospitals where she offers abortion services to women who qualify, as well as a simultaneous increase in the level of investigation of women who report miscarriages. Other women have fallen into police traps. In 2012, a Rio sociologist decided she could not continue her pregnancy. She was already struggling to parent a 12-year-old with intense special needs. The sociologist went to her gynecologist. He said, this medication exists, Cytotec, but I can't give it to you. You'll have to buy it from the black market. She found a website, ordered the drug, and paid several months' salary for it, but the package never arrived. She was tracking it online and watched it stall when it entered the country. She found a drug trafficking contact through a friend of a friend who bought a second batch, took the drug at home, and ended the pregnancy with no complications. Her only regret being that she had to be alone through a frightening process. A year later, a letter arrived summoning her to the police. She thought it was about her car, which had been stolen the year before, but when she arrived, a male officer asked her, "Do you know what Cytotec is?" She said she did. He asked if she had bought it. She could see he had her credit card information from the purchase on the paper in front of him. She admitted she had it. It turned out the police were monitoring the website where she bought misoprostol, traced the package, and said they would charge her with unlawful purchase of a controlled substance. After several years of hearings, she entered an alternative sentencing program and performed 60 hours of community service. She continues to have to report her whereabouts to police and cannot leave her state. Women's reliance on the black market for access to medication abortions means they may not follow best medical practices. when C, a 24-year-old teacher in Recife, brought mifepristone from a drug dealer last year, she searched Google. She searched Google to figure out how to make it because it was illegal. There was no information about how to take it or what to take, she said. Her research recommendations, her search found recommendations to insert the tablets into her vagina as a doctor would if she were in a clinic, but cautioned that traces might be left behind and give her away if she wound up in the hospital. Instead, she dissolved them under her tongue, a method that also works but less quickly. If you're new coming in, please hit the like button. I'm just working my way through this article. It's a long article, but as I'm reading this, there's a lot here, and there are pieces I can cut off and re-upload in small parts. But please hit that like button if you want to make a donation to the channel. That information is here. And this is an article off Yahoo. I didn't write this, but I think it gives, for those of us who are kind of looking at this from the outside and looking at the outrage over the decision, I think this is giving a nice look at other parts of this and insight into the outrage. I mean, if it's banned in certain states, women will have to travel to other states, and some may resort to trying to get these medications from the black market, which, as we're seeing, has several dangers. So please, once again, continue to leave your comments there in the chat if you have questions or comments or anything regarding this, and please keep them civil. Let's see. C, who asked to be identified only by her middle initial out of fear of prosecution, bled for weeks after and wanted to ask her mother, a gynecologist, for advice, but her mother is an anti-abortion activist. Finally, C said she thought she had miscarried, and her mother took her to see a colleague who performed a dilation and curettage under anesthetic. When I was having the curettage, I had to keep saying over and over to myself, "Don't say anything. You can't say anything." It was torture, she said. Even though I was totally sure that I wanted an abortion, I had no doubts. You still feel like you've done something wrong because you can't talk about it. The restriction on mifepristone has complicated regular obstetric care, which uses the drug for induction of labor, said Derek. At the Rio Public Maternity Hospital, where she is medical director, a doctor must fill out a request in triplicate for the drug, have it signed by Derek, take it to the pharmacy where the supervisor must also sign before taking it out of a locked cabinet. And then the physician must administer the drug with a witness to ensure it is not diverted for black market sale. Not all of these steps were officially required, Derek said, but hospitals do them because of the intense paranoia around the drug. All right, everyone, that's the article. If you want to read it for yourself, it's in the description box. I'll drop it in the chat right now. But this is I wanted to do this stream not addressing the politics of it or the spirituality, but instead the science, because this is also a science story. And with this being sent back to the States, that's going to create a whole different decision logic for the women and the men who live in the non-abortion states. And it sounds like Brazil has very, very tight reins on abortion. And in their country, it seems to have created a bit of a quote unquote black market, which means that the drugs have to be sold underground. I see that some more folks have come in. The likes are free. If you want to like the stream, please like the stream. If you want to make a donation to the channel, my information is here. And if not, that's fine as well. To the YouTube algorithm, this was just for educational purposes only. And I was not rendering health or healthcare advice in this stream. So let's see, this is at 1 hour and 6 minutes. I am going to wrap this up. And I want to thank everyone who came through. Once again, in summary, if you're just coming through at the end, I gave a little talk prior to this article regarding reproductive biology as it relates to humans. It was just very, very high level. There are whole textbooks, thick textbooks on this topic. Medical students have to take courses on this. And in my graduate training, we took in physiology, in our physiology curriculum, part of it involved reproductive biology. And then as a pharmacologist, we had to learn about these types of drugs as well. So this is a very, very vast field. I would not dream of doing it justice in a 1 hour live stream on YouTube. It's too broad, but I thought it would be helpful to give a context for this article here. One of the strategies for abortion is through pharmacology, through the administration of drugs. And there are a host of implications for that as well. T. Riddler says, thank you for reviewing this, Dr. Dunbar. No problem, T. Riddler. Thank you for your viewership. I hope that somebody got something out of this. I'm going to wrap up. Once again, if you're curious to know what pharmacology is, I wrote this piece up on my original blog. This is very, very, I wrote this up to be understandable by the layperson, so for the non-scientist. And the article is there as well, and it's below in the description box. Please consider joining the Big Words LLC Newsletter. That link is also in the description box. Thank you to everyone who has signed up. There is a 2-paragraph greeting with a subscription button there at the bottom. You just enter in your email address. I won't send it to anyone else because I know how that goes. I am a writer in addition to a YouTube content creator, and I'm working on a book. Ronan says the link to the newsletter is here. Nope, that's the StreamYard link. The link to the newsletter is here. And then the question is, do people even read today? Me and some of the other writers that I know have discussed that. Ronan says, I took a year of reproduction and embryology in medical school. Yep, you guys got to know this stuff cold turkey because you're seeing patients. Snuggle says, this gives the deletion of a human being a little bit of a heartfelt feel for the person who was doing the deletion to understand their pain and dilemma. Okay. Well, Snuggles, I think what you're trying to say is that there are a host of emotions involved in this, and I've heard that there is an emotional toll on women who have this procedure, whether it's by use of a drug or surgical means. Um, I've heard that there is an emotional toll or an emotional price that gets paid during this. So um, if that's what you're saying, yeah, I agree with that. Anyway, everyone, let me wrap this stream up. If the algorithm brought you here, please consider liking, please share, and please subscribe. My intent of this was not to get into the politics or the spirituality of this thing because those are divisive. I was talking with my mother last week, and whenever we talk, we both agree that politics and religion are two of the most divisive topics out there. So engage in those with caution. All right, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Friday and be safe out there this holiday weekend. And when you're broaching this subject, let me slow down. When you're broaching this subject with other people, approach it with understanding and discernment, and try to be civil. Try to keep the emotion out of it, and just approach this with care. All right. All right, everyone. You know how I end my videos and streams. As always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.